Fire, fire, fire. Good afternoon, Africa. Or we can say good evening, Africa as well. Depending on how you day, because the time difference. Big up to now once more. The man be missing in action, but we don't come back inside. We're not going to make this news delay. Anything in regards to Niger, now something really captivates we all passing, not just Tasmo. Because I see the type of audience members they will get all around the globe, you know, the African stem, and also the stance that we all take. Some people are not over there for this cause or not understand history as well. So we not expect say each and every African for be part of this cause or participate, because the ideologies them, the perceptions them, are unique and different. What's also I want to point out, we also get some Africans then we're already subdued. Same thing with the Asians or in the colonial days them, you know, or during slavery days. We get some slaves then we're subdued, we accept for be slaves. Same thing with Egypt during the Egyptian times, you know, where the pharaohs them they exist or whatsoever. People then they also will be they sell them picking as slaves. What they accept themselves as slaves. So we got to understand this notation, this idea say, not so all man want be free. Now the first thing is I want to point out slow when I understand. Not so all man want be free. We get some people then we let for be controlled. We get some people then we let for they under other people them. You know? Vice versa, you know? But again, not to all man let liberty. So not to all man go fetch for liberty. Some people then believe say people do not get any freedom in this world. What's when they talk about human rights? No, they exist. Because there's no human rights per se. You know, I want Churchline Foundation basis there before we start to discuss about Niger. So now me and you probably they think about human rights. Now me and you probably think about freedom and justice for all and the independence of Africa. But not to all man go there by this boat. You know, be aware of that. So big up to now once more. Big up Salone, Liberia, Guinea, Ghana, Nigeria, Niger, Cameroon, Senegal, Ivory Coast, Mali, Burkina Faso, the rest of Una, et al. Welcome to Tasmoin page. This is the afternoon session. First and foremost, we just want church small about the Wagner stem. When I know Sabi raise a concern, and I'm glad that, you know, the media outlets them also within a day or two, them back begin to raise the same concern, you know, for just validates for make sure say now progression, they be assassinated or killed or crash, you know, during this episode where happened inside Russia. But so far, what's in would only align the news so and what we all understand and what time make we understand. Will not get any private entity we go inside Russia for investigate the death of this man here. Now the Russians they do their own investigations them. Now the Russians they collect their own evidences them. Now they conduct their own DNA tests them. Then they verify say progression be inside these flights and this man don't die. And so far today the paper do in funeral. Progression in funeral paper go on right now as we they talk under secrecy in St. Petersburg, inside Russia, I guess, you know. So then conduct a test, but only the Russians they can verify that. Why make them not allow, you know, an extra source, an independent source for doing investigation? For now we all validate say this man here really don't die. Because all this again another gimmick, another trick for fool, confuse the African still. Some of when I go think say we they align with Russia. We never align with Russia. Any Pan-African go understand this. We only get ties them with Russia, but not so true partnership with Russia. You know? Because every white race per se, we consider them the same. Where come, the Germans them, the Russians them, the Europeans them, the Westerners them, go tag team against any other foreigner groups. I make Lona believe and understand this. You know? So Africa stand by itself independently. We get bilateral ties them, and that's the we get whether or not bilateral ties or multilateral ties, but we'll not get any partnership with any country per se. When it comes to this Pan-African movement. Because nobody don't understand we problems them or we pain past we. That Russian, where not Russia don't understand who pain or who struggles them. That possibly the Ukraine don't understand the African struggles them. You know? Only we understand we struggles them. Now make right now, ECOWAS no one understand Niger struggles, which is bad for we. Bad for we. So let me just exit small this Russian talk one. We'll go face and come as time progress. But we need a concrete investigation based on progression in that one. You know? We don't hear it. So many people there where they can say they don't die, then just MIA. You know? Then they exist, but they're still there alive. Let me continue on to the next. So inside Niger, I'll be the plan for keep this for tomorrow. But certain information in there enough fits for keep. We fix disseminator immediately with the iron worm. One thing again I want to point out. Before slavery days, or before them colonized, we doing slavery. Now the same way the white man come and corrupts we, confuse we, sets fire we, or instigates issues amongst we the Africans them. Then we end up for turn among ourselves, turn against among ourselves. That step will take place again for another second or third episode. Why make we the Africans then or the land? Why make we not value we people them? Why make we always value the bilateral ties them or the Westerners them or the Europeans them? And this to go for ECOWAS. This not a shameful thing what ECOWAS they participate in. Now a shameful thing for go kill a young company Nigerians them because Niger and Nigerians they mix. Now the same people are Nigerians them. So if ECOWAS go inside Niger, now the Nigerians they also they kill. Why make ECOWAS not become aware of this? Why make we leaders and they think of them things they are first and foremost? Now this kind of upsets me. And the sad part or the sadistic part of this, Macron, one of France presidents, before I eat more major points as them. Now another young guy just like me and you, well, maybe history passed enough for explain game or in back pick up book and learn. So he more focus on their own generation. The empowerment of the young generation, whether or not the young generation or the upcoming generation. Now the same thing with the Africans in the faithful. But ECOWAS go sit down, fall and fall foot, watch France empower themselves, watch this young Baba Macron, they empower the country, they take advantage of Africa, and we get all them old leaders they are, with the lead Africa, they with presidents they are, go sit down, fall and fall foot, with all them wisdom we they get, with all them knowledge we they get, they will still become doormats or become a puppet. So, France. Very sad for we. We get a young boy, they control Niger or some of the West African coast there. Another thing I want to point out, France be inside Burkina Faso, Burkina Faso exits them. France be inside Mali, Mali exits them. So why make inside Niger, we're not for able to exit them? ECOWAS need for beginning to think about this. Not so just the political ties, but with resources that can force a paramount to with the Africans still. No African no fit for go to buy tickets, they fly for go overseas, for go study, or for go work, you know, for the whites or the Europeans still. But based on their resources they are, well, they excavate, take care of go. Now that's to make me you still the under them white people they are. Still subdue under them. Still subdue under them. Now, let me continue. Inside Niger, so far, what's in the military? John Tade or the personnel and they do? They never build up the military might. They never cultivate, you know. Well, don't want to use the cultivate, you know. Then they never make sure, say, they involve all the people them. For participate, for enroll into the army, for ready for take arms, for fight against France. And before we continue this talk here, I want to make Leona know say France now a time bomb they don't set for Niger. France really want to go to war with Niger, with the support of ECOWAS. Because if they give any country ultimatum, maybe it's not permanent, but at that moment of time it's temporary. They say we need ambassadors there for left. France for don't exit the ambassadors them or the military personnel them out of Niger. But France not do that. Well, let we do a precedent. During the colonial days, what the Africans they begin to rebel. They say no once again the colonial masters there for stay. What happened? All the colonial masters there, then let's loose off the colonial powers them. Starting even with Salon, we get independence 1961. So now almost the same thing that take place. If France say no want, if Niger say no want to give France, whether not France for demand say no, we need to go no side with the stay. This is verily by partial and enough fear to the African state or the sovereignty of Niger. ECOWAS no one respects the sovereignty of Niger. Now, let me continue. Macron, France president, he said based on their own policy system, if they're correct, with the relation we then get with the president Bazoum, you know, then diplomats them or ambassadors then still get rights for stay based on policy system. Well, based on policy system, what President Bazoum be signed or agreed to. But so far, Bazoum not they in power. You know, so the one way they in power, now what's in demand or what's in wants, now this France for align with. But France say again, they not recognize the junta them as leaders them or authorities them inside Niger. Wouldn't have France for recognize one of the authorities them inside Niger? Then gets their own sovereignty inside France. Niger gets their own sovereignty. Wouldn't have France for go talk say we now accept the sovereignty wouldn't junta they don't possess. ECOWAS need for beginning to think. You know? And France also, Macron, whatever his name is, said despite all the pressure, and the quotes in words them, for level leaders then they think of them things there. He said despite the pressures, or any pressure, that means it can care less what the ECOWAS decide, or what any other African nation decide, or whatsoever pressure we want put on France, they're ready for stick. Now that's France and presidents, they tell we, despite the pressure, despite the illegal claims of authority, you know, the internal force system or army go stay inside Niger. So despite all them things there, France, the ambassador or diplomats them, or the military personnel there, about 1,500, will continue for stay inside Niger. Forcefully. Now let we continue. And we not blame France because of their decisions there or then talk there. We blame ECOWAS. The times when we need ECOWAS for acts, they know they act. Time when we don't need ECOWAS for misbehave, they pas misbehave. Now let we continue. And what did France say? Or what did Macron say? He said the people are not for listen to the narratives them of the juntas them. The juntas and the claim say France not the enemy. But France not to the enemy. Now that's Macron, France and presidents, the state. We not for listen to the narratives them of the junta. But Africa, we need for listen. We need for listen. We need for listen and understand the struggles them or the problems them where they take place inside Niger. Now, let me continue. And he said the junta what's in France state. This all now for mislead the people them or for mislead Africa. How the junta they puts the people in danger. They puts the people in danger inside Niger. Because then they for fight against Islamic groups them or terrorist groups them or jihadist groups them. But so far since then junta they don't come in existence, the fight against them groups they are will become limited inside the Sahel region. So what's in France they accuse the junta they for? They accuse them junta they are say they don't abandon the fight against terrorism. They don't abandon the fight against terrorism and also against good economy policy. So now two things that France they claim. That's Niger don't do. Niger don't abandon the fight against terrorism, and also we can to good policies that we can to the economy. Well, when I know say they can rip off Niger, France totally they can rip off Niger. So we can to, good economy policies them, now avoid all these now statements them for contradict the John them. All these now statements them for confuse or create a conflict within the African system. We're not going to remember that. France say Niger they can lose the international funding system. Now listen to this. So if this now France then concerned, or why make them concerned? How Niger they can lose the international funding system? Well, all the African coast or countries they are can get international fundings, but we're not can get what we supposed to forget. For example, if we supposed to forget 50 billion, maybe not 2 billion they go give we. The other 48 they go keep and sit on. And that 50 billion there we go need them for develop Africa. No one they give we the complete money. NATO, the European state of France, no one they give we the complete money based on the international funding there. And don't forget, say, South African presidents and Kenyan presidents, we don't raise their concerns there. So now this France they claim how Niger they lose the international funding system. Well, it's not too significant because Niger never receive anything much. And what's in they pull out of Niger is more major than what's in they come inside Niger from international funding system. So to me then talk they are irrelevant and don't make any sense. Wake up Africa. Wake up Africa. Let me continue. And Macron said that's not the reality. The reality is they never dupe. They all not criminals them, including Macron, and they need to remove the arms them away from Africa. Now that's not the reality. When I get a young, stupid Macron, they come, they talk to the world, like say he understand history, or incapable govern the world per se. Because what this guy they talk with attitude. A president where they lead a nation or we get ties them in any other countries, not forget the kind of attitude what Macron gets. In this situation, this current situation, it's all about negotiation. Peaceful ways and for negotiate. But Macron's attitude towards the African system is bad. And at the claims then this what in Niger can get. The people inside Niger, they state that if Macron believe that Niger and poor, why make France want to stay inside Niger? Now this the Niger people in state. If France believe that Niger poor, why make France want to stay inside Niger? Because they're not saying no poor. But they depict the image like say the Africans are poor, they live inside slums, they're not good enough for governing themselves, they need help. And we don't need any help from France or NATO or any European countries or unions them. We need to remember this. Now, let me continue. And Macron say, if they not come out and talk they are, nobody else no go talk them. Like say in care for Africans them. Macron they walk out on the wrong soil, the wrong turf, and this will create an international war with France. And I hope say by then ECOWAS will understand the situation and get strong ties then with Niger for defend Niger. Because if ECOWAS will defend Niger right now, France not will back the way they back. France not will talk the way they talk. Or misbehave how they misbehave. Then give us sanctions them. 48 hours for left the country. Up till now, then they inside Niger. It's just like somebody when a stranger can inside me house. I tell you so man, come on at me house. You talk so now you need to come out. You go sit down. If you not take time self, you go sleep there. But now die there. Now die there. Now that step take place inside Niger. Inside the man and house, person to go talk say and then they come out. But now be reasonable, low use common sense for justify them causes there are the issues there. Now let me continue. So far, the military people that they mobilize, the civilians for joining the military for counter any attack from France. And what make I state earlier, I said this now is set up or a time bomb. Because anything will happen to the ambassador, France the ambassador, now an act of war. Anything will happen to France the military personnel now an act of war. France go send a military troop for go fight inside Niger. And they don't get a warning say, pull them people here. Then say no. When I see what's the advantage there, Africa need for wake up. Africa need for wake up. Also ECOWAS need for wake up. Very sad for we. They confuse we. They take we as slaves. Take and colonize we. And now again, another form of, another form for colonize with the Africans. And this now a second bout for Niger. Since they don't get the first independence from France, this could be another second independence from France itself. May they remove the grips them away from Niger or Africa. Now, let me continue. So far, sanctions them don't they affect Niger from ECOWAS. ECOWAS place a whole lot of sanctions them where they affect Niger gradually. But Burkina Faso and Mali not agree. Not agree. Burkina Faso and Mali, they send and supply goods them to Niger. Currently, also Burkina Faso and Mali don't send troops them inside Niger. In case France want act stupid, then go ready for counter. And I want to make them know say Mali not be the sovereignty of this West African coast, the Mali Empire. So ECOWAS, you small for Mali if you understand history. ECOWAS, you too small for Mali if you understand history. If see Mali, they take the leadership and Burkina Faso say, we don't tire with send French people here. It's about our time, we eradicate them. It surprised me, ECOWAS, they misbehave up to now. It's very sad. But last week, I been telling I say, now based on this bilateral ties, what Nigeria gets with the West, we can to oil. Because the West are the biggest buyers, them, to that product inside Nigeria. So, Nigerians and Nepal sell with the Africans, them, based on currency, based on finance, based on capital. Now a big sellout. So we don't want to judge or classify the entire Nigerian still. We want all Tinubu, the president, accountable for this. Because when they talk so, not to all the Nigerians still support this movement. Boku they against ECOWAS for going inside Niger. Boku, majority they against. So we go all Tinubu accountable for their mishaps there or their in leadership, mistakes there where they make. Now we continue. So Burkina Faso, they support Niger. Mali, they support Niger. 1,500 France troops them already stationed inside Niger. But so far, what's in the Nigers need to do? Well, they make sure say nothing they go inside the embassy. If possible, one come out say for go buy food, it's not possible. One go buy water, it's not possible. Electricity, not possible. So they don't cut off every access or things that we're gonna make the France get a livelihood inside the embassy for the time being. Niger don't eliminate all the access they need. So past no one that the supplies them will be inside the embassy, now they're going to survive out of. But for say you see France get a personnel for going on the streets on the market for go buy something, it's not possible. It's not possible. So now coffee that they don't give, the France they inside Niger. But it look like say again a time bomb because the France they only waits for a small crash or something happen to the ambassador stem or the military personnel stem. Then you go see say they go begin to send the aircraft them or military personnel inside Niger. And when that took place, the war don't come inside West Africa. It can happen anytime from now. Today, tomorrow, next week, next month. It can happen anytime from now. Let me continue. Last but not the least, what we want to emphasize, the people there not let the French or not want France inside Niger anymore longer. Majority speak louder. The majority inside Niger don't already conclude. They don't tire with saying colonial masters them. They need France for exit. Now the first principality this what France need for understand and accept. The people that say they're not going to rest until death. So they're ready for die for the independence. The world need to understand this. The people are ready for die for the independence. The world need to understand this. France need to move out. Also, I don't state this earlier, since the French then think say the Nigers then poor, what in the French then still do inside Niger? Another concern. Now, let me continue. All the sanctions there where ECOWAS come place, we go to hope say ECOWAS will begin to remove the sanctions there slowly, gradually, and start to understand the pains and the problems them of the Niger people them. Now that's what they hope for. I see me brother Mr. I Am Shakes. Big up to you Mr. Shakes. I Am Shakes. Long time me brother. Big up to you. Tasmode which you always respect, you know. So for now conclude this proper, the French or the France them base, the moment where any attack take place stay within this embassy, I act up for and I set up. I set up for the West African step. But this will not just be a war for the West African step. It will be the entire Africans that as a whole, including even Libya, because they are part of we, including Egypt. We all need to work in a solidarity manner, you know, against them colonial masters there or the infiltrators there. So we they call on the African Union, you know, personnel stem or every country involved inside this African Union for advice ECOWAS and begin to take the right step where possible and unnecessary. Because ECOWAS now half of the portion, African Union now the absolute per se. So we need African Union for intervene. We need African Union for act. If there's also fall and fall foot and left ECOWAS continue to misbehave, what's going to happen inside Niger? It will take years and years for discourse, you know, and it's not easy for the history forget what's going to happen inside Niger. But I don't forget to also, this not so no more just against terrorist groups them, but also against Islamic groups them. This now Christian versus Muslim, and this not supposed to be. Now this make all the Islamic groups them don't go around Niger because they don't want the Westerners them inside Niger. So it will be a political war. It will be a political war. It will be also a war based on resource. It will be a war based on resource. It will be a landscaping war because then things also African and in possession with wealth, not in wealth. But last, now we independence, the Africans they faithful. And it will be a war based on that. Salon don't fight for the independence around, you know, the 1950s, take 1961. Guinea, Liberia, Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal, Cameroon, Ivory Coast, name it. Most of them countries they have been fought for become liberated. Well, another liberation movement this. African Union need to be aware of this. ECOWAS need to become aware of this. And the whole people and the entire people inside Africa as well need to become aware of this. We don't expect to now for support their movements here because some of you now slaves them. Some of you now they burn you as a slave. And you go die as a slave. Some of you now don't need any freedom. So we don't deserve any freedom. Nobody one day will deserve freedom or the liberty Now, una, we seek for them to understand the cause system of Niger. And history will always talk this. Una stay blessed. Now, when I boy again, Charles Muslims, the servants, aka Bepeko, I've been need for face scan this business inside. We don't need for make it sleep because every day new things and they take place, new things and they happen, and Tasmo no one delay. Tasmo no one left behind. I need for them on top of situation. So big up to that. Una stay blessed. Again, on a boy again, Tasmo still the servants, aka Bepeko. Allah is always great. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allah is always great.